Hi. Today is a complete shit show. Of course, I was a few minutes late. I'm sorry for the delay. There's probably nobody here anyway, but I did have a question from the lovely Stephen Venegas that I was going to answer. And it's kind of tied into what I was guided to talk about as well. Just a little preamble. First of all, joyeux le jour du Bastille pour mes amis français. Oh là là, c'est le 14 juillet. It's the 14th of July. That's probably not an accident. There's some very overprotective older brothers watching me who wanted me to do this on the 14th of July, 2019. I don't know why. I'm in my most punk rock Vivienne Westwood moment. I even wore my Marie Claire, oh la la, Belle Epoque striped Marie Claire skirt in honor of Juillet 14. 14 juillet. So, yeah, why am I here? I don't know. I was asked to be here by some people up there. I'm not even entirely sure they were my guides, but okay, yeah, they were. And I'm getting a lot of angelic presence lately, as in Archangel Michael protecting me, or lots of angel presence lately. And they're worried that people aren't getting it. There's a lot of false prophets right now. As I've stated for many years, that false prophecy is part of the end times. It's like part and parcel. It's part of the deal. And so what's happening with a lot of that is that people are getting distracted. And it's funny that I'm saying this on Mercury retrograde, during Mercury retrograde, because I feel like I'm going backwards. So forgive me if this isn't particularly clear, but people who claim that they're interested in spiritual enlightenment and they join people or they listen to people, all right, I'm just going to say it, like, I'm inviting so much controversy today. I'm wearing a controversial t-shirt from a controversial film director, from a controversial movie that was incredibly controversial. If anybody knows where it is from, leave a comment down below. Lots of controversy with me. Lots of controversial things that I've always been fascinated by. And lots of fascination with people being outraged by controversy in certain contexts. And people are really, like, I've been saying things lately like, speaking of someone who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing, or that's missing the point, or your righteous indignation is misplaced, or I can't help you because you're too rigid in your mindset. People, this brings me to the question that dear Stephen Venegas asked on my Instagram at Anya B NYC. And thank you, Stephen. You're awesome. He's one of my clients who is amazing. One of the best readings I've ever done for the lovely Stephen. And he, like many of my clients, are very sensitive, highly sensitive people, empaths, who really have been, this isn't about him anymore, but just a lot of my clients want to contribute something, you know? And a lot of people who come to me come from homes that are less than ideal for that just don't prepare them for that. And it's understood, but another theme of the week that I've been going back to is we really don't know who we are. We really don't know who we are, and that's by design. And what I do is something very controversial. It's not in the scientific canon exactly, or it's not science that has been discovered yet that we know of in this timeline. But And it's not religious. I don't believe in dogma. I don't want to promote dogma. I don't want to promote dogmatic behavior. Neither does the occult. If you really are an occultist, which is what people are essentially trying to come to me about and ask me about, they don't know that. They don't have the terminology. But what they're really trying to say is, I want to join the occult. And, that's a misunderstood term that a lot of people that I used to hang out with in the conspiracy community used with fear, as a term that was connected invariably to Satanism, even though most of them don't even have the foggiest idea what Satanism is or Luciferianism. Believe it or not, it's a philosophical construct. It's not designed to go after you specifically. It's not to go after your women folk and your babies. It's actually a philosophical construct. But people are so rigid, which is also a sign of mental illness, believe it or not. If you are too rigid in your thinking, it's this and only this, and it can no longer be anything else, and it never was, and it never will be. That is actually one of the criteria for mental illness. Now, I know there are those of you who come to me that think that mental illness isn't real, but it is, people, it is. So I'm here to be controversial, I guess, because Facebook apparently hates my guts, and every group I go in, people are like, constantly telling me how bad I am and how awful and shitty a person I am because I say this kind of stuff. And so I'm going to say this on my motherfucking platform, bitches. All right. And if you don't like it, there's the door. Click off. Go. Be gone. I have a lot of interference in my life. And to try and get this message out gets misunderstood continually. Anya can't take criticism. No. I can't take stupid bitches who don't know what I'm saying and they constantly are trying to misunderstand me. Plenty of people understand me, bitch, okay? You don't want to understand because you have been traumatized, but you're behaving like a sumbitch. You're behaving like a bitch. And you are a little bitch to whatever it is that is causing you to react so offended by what I'm saying. And I'll tell you why. It's by design. You were not taught to question anything growing up. You were not taught to differentiate yourself from who you grew up with, namely a primary caregiver or a parent or whomever. That's 90% of the problems on earth is not the psychopaths doing the damage. They go and do the damage. It's the 90% of us who don't want to believe that people like this exist. And that is why we are in the problems we are in, because people are too rigid in their mindset. They've been taught that Glinda the Good Witch is real, and so is the Wicked Witch of the West, and there's no in between. And I used to be that way too when I was more mind controlled. Okay, Kelly, if you're watching, you're hate watching. I know plenty of alcoholic psychics. What are they doing for the world? I know plenty of drug-addicted people who follow Aleister Crowley and think that they're great, and they wind up dead in jail with DUIs. I mean, I've been following this guy who told me he was going to eat my entrails with his little satanic cult, and they might have even broken into my home. I'm not even sure. And he made the national news because he said the same thing to this yoga instructor in Boston. And he is deranged. He is completely deranged. He's a hardcore black magician. And he is the one who is punished the most right now. He is completely devolved. He's not even there anymore. He allowed spirits to take him over. So I'm going to go back to the other person who I mentioned, who people follow and think she's a savior and a spiritual catalyst. I'm going to say it. Teal Swan. There, I said it. Now I'm going to call her Steel Khan from now on because she's already plagiarized from me and a bunch of other people. And basically, if you hear me say this, watch the timestamp. Because if I talk about things, it's guided from spirit and it's also co-creative with me. I wanted to talk about these things. They're my subjects that I'm discussing, and I'm phrasing in the way that I phrase it using my language. It's fine if people want to add their 2 cents and everything, but don't plagiarize from me. That's the act of a coward, including you, Steel Khan. That's the act of a coward, all right? I am addressing these cowards who for whatever reason, in her case, she willingly allowed herself to get, I'm going there. I am going there. I'm being extra controversial. Because I know everything's backwards right now in retrograde, so fuck it. Because nobody's either people, I'm going to get like a load of hate comments from her cult followers saying she saved my life, even though she's plagiarized most of her work and she has the former head of Lithuanian military intelligence as her IT director, who also, she has a, at her beck and call, 24/7, 365, a team of people to make a video for her at any time of the day or night at her call. They don't make a living. They're all called volunteers. None of them get paid, even though she's worth $1 million net. And she does fine making money, stealing from other people's philosophies without giving them credit, plagiarizing and implanting dangerous, negative ideas into people and creating false memories in people. If anything, she should be working for the CIA at this point. That's how good she is at taking incredibly vulnerable people on the edge and transforming them into completely psychotic individuals. So, bravo. Well done, lady. You're doing so much work for ascension and going into 5D or whatever the fuck it is people call it this year. So I'm speaking with I did a lot of work on my throat chakra. So if this is a complete turnoff to you, because this isn't how spiritual people work, bye, bye, bye. There's the door. There's the door. I hope I'm not alienating you, but apparently my delivery and my tone is not feminine enough, or I'm shrill, or I remind you of your mother, which is usually what it is. Like, you're hypercritical parents, but you have no critical thinking skills, so you can't differentiate between someone who's saying the house is on fire, get out of the house, and your parents telling you that you're a piece of shit. Like, you can't differentiate the two. And that's who Teal takes in and tells them there's nothing wrong with them, even though they have severe mental health issues that they really should be looked at by a mental health care professional. And she insists she's the only one who can do that, but she's not. She's actually the absolute last person you should go to for advice about suicide. And I'm not going to get into that here, but apparently my throat chakra is on all, like, 10 alarm fire right now because, again, Mercury retrograde and because I said so. So that's someone who I'm never going to allow to plagiarize me ever again. She did that on November 18th of 2018. She stole directly from my Facebook page that I no longer have because Facebook tells me I'm a horrible person, and used it in a video the very same day. Very same day. So that's Steele Con for you. She's running a scam. She's running a scam. And she's got all these vulnerable people in her compound in Costa Rica right now who have willingly given up their savings accounts. If I were a cult network who was observing cult activity, I would keep a very strong eye on her in the next 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, because she's got suicide cult watch all over her. And people need to watch her to tell her to behave, because she is I think she's been diagnosed with several personality disorders, and she's a psychopath. She is a straight up classic textbook psychopath. She also has about 4 entities, 4 black spirits inside of her that she willingly let in to help her career. And you think that's the first person I know of to do that? This is common, basic Becky bitch shit that people will do to get a quick route to success. And I'm telling you, it's real. But conspiracy theorists get it muddled. And they never take the time to actually learn about Luciferianism and Satanism and what it really is versus the different sects of Satanism and Luciferianism. But I digress, because they all think that witchcraft is evil too, and tarot card reading and yoga and chakras, which are just part of your energy body. So I'm rambling, but I'm on a good roll too, because my righteous indignation and my being offended matters more than theirs right now, because this is my platform and I get to say whatever the fuck I want, all right? So if you don't like this approach of a spiritual human being who has all these things, and maybe this is a dumpster fire to you, then you aren't the right person. you aren't the right person for me. I'm not the right person for you, because this is how it's going to be from now on. If I was a man, people would be rewarding me for my behavior and telling me how straight to the point I am. But because I have breasts and a vagina, in this society, that's a no-go. I'm supposed to be saying love and light compulsively, knee-jerkingly, like I have OCD or something every 5 seconds. That's what's acceptable, and this is not. But I don't come from that. I come from a punk rock, riot girl, do-it-yourself tradition. And hey, good luck finding anyone in that tradition who is spiritual as well, because they're all atheists, or they're a form of Buddhism that I don't really care for. That's not really getting what I'm at. It's just about non-attachment, non-attachment, non-attachment. Nothing ever changes. Everything's about non-attachment, which is, in their branch of what it is, it becomes about spiritual bypassing rather than dealing with the issue, because the people I'm thinking of who wanted me to do Buddhist chanting with them are really famous rock stars who are incredibly damaged people themselves. And there's some psychics on TV who said, no, she's not responsible for her rock star husband's death. But I would digress. Jim Jones claimed he was a Christian, ladies. And this woman, she ain't no Christian, she ain't no Buddhist. I'll put it that way. She's going through the motions, like a lot of y'alls, which goes back to my point about people following false prophets and people following belief systems, but they're hollow inside because they're not addressing the actual issue itself. And I'm here to address the actual issue itself. If that makes me the mean person or the bad mom to you, that I'm actually not, you need to separate and individuate. And you're extremely codependent if you think that and you're turned off by this message, it's fine. But if you are subconsciously thinking that I'm your substitute parent, that's not fine. Because I'm not your substitute mommy. You have to find yourself. And sometimes, in fact, a lot of it is very uncomfortable and unpleasant. So maybe this is me and my inner drill sergeant with my throat chakra widely aligned, telling you this. But people need to get their head out of their rear ends. They have to. They have to. They have to. I can't stand the nonsense. Part of my year of silence involved separating the wheat from the chaff. And cutting out the dross, cutting the fat. And I can't, it pains me. It's painful for me because it hurts to see somebody so misguided by a so-called spiritual leader come to me for the nth time and say, well, this person said this and I feel guilty because I can't live up to it. Hey, Sarah, how are you? Oh my God, I'm so happy to see you here. I've been doing a dumpster fire, so this may not be what you're used to, but I've been lighting up a dumpster fire. Everyone's Sarah, everybody. She's great. We just had a chat the other day. I love Sarah. Anyway, brilliant people. I'm sorry if I'm coming across a little caffeinated. It's really not that. It's a combination of factors. And also, right before I did this, I'm a little adrenalized right now because right before I did this, and I don't know those of you who have followed me from my conspiracy theory days, but I got a lot of harassment. I don't want to go into bring the energy down in the place. It's probably already in the dumpster fire right now. But right before I started this, there was my doorbell was rung. And the person didn't say anything. So that wasn't creepy at all. That wasn't creepy at all. Of course, it is New York City and things happen, but I have some issues with that, with law enforcement having to get involved and things of that nature. So it's a little scary for me. It's a little scary to have my throat chakra this open, but this is how I really am. This is how I am in session. If you don't like it, there's no law telling you that you have to be here, okay? You have free will. So there is a lot of passivity that I've experienced. There's a lot of codependence that I've experienced from people who are trying to find solutions, and they're getting a lot of bad advice. And I'm not saying I'm the only solution or I'm the right solution, but I am seeing a lot of bad advice. There's a lot of unchecked confirmation bias, closed loop systems where people will get a link to something, but it won't be linked to anything else. It'll just be like on another conspiracy theory blog, on another new age blog. It'll just be all in this closed network where everybody's confirming everybody else's bias. That has to stop, you guys. I know that's probably part of the human condition, but it's never been easier to check your facts and do background checks than now. We have this beautiful quandary in our lives where right now, at this time in humanity's history, where you can check things out and get them verified. And if you can't verify them, then you can't verify them. You have to stop congratulating people for spreading lies and disinformation. And anyone who's watching this post live stream who comes from what they would call, the conspiracy community, because I still have people in drips and drabs following me around from that phase of my life. I just want to tell you, for the most part, that a lot of you are not checking your sources and you are not doing due diligence, and you need to do that. And it's part of opening your third eye, which gets me to the question that I was asked. And again, if anybody's watching who's here right now, hi guys, there's actually 4 people here. I can't believe it. I'm so excited. Thank you. I literally thought I was going to be talking to a hole in a pothole in the street. I literally thought that's what it would be, like a live cam of a pothole, and I'm going to be talking to that because there's been so much interference in my life. Oh, hey, Gabe, how's it going? Thank you. Thank you for addressing the confirmation bias of conspiracy URLs. I get people trying to intimidate me into repeating bogus info often too. Yeah, I used to get that a lot too. I used to get a lot of round robin, you better confirm this, from a lot of the alternative news media. Like, they were pressuring me to conform to this. And I want to say one thing that I feel stupid about, and this is when my mother was dying and I was really in a bad way. This was in 2011 or whatever. Hello, Brandon. I can't believe this. People are actually leaving nice chat comments and everything. Please be nice, you guys. I'm all over the place, but I know what I'm doing. I really do. I just don't know about technology, and we're in Mercury retrograde right now, so it's a little harder to get my words out because I do feel the effects of some celestial things. I really do. Not always, but sometimes I know. I listen to my body and I listen to my body's energy field. And my solar plexus is feeling a little worked up right now, but it's getting out the gunk. It's getting out the stuff I've wanted to get out for years. And I haven't, because I was fearful of retaliation and negative comments. And now I just don't care. I really don't care, especially if it's from my platform. This is my home, bitch. You don't like it? Sorry, them's the breaks. This is who I really am. So you don't like it? Bye. Bye. See ya. But anyway, if you do respond to this and you are getting what I'm saying and you do hear what I'm saying, that I'm not screaming at you because I'm your substitute parent telling you you're not worthy. I'm screaming at you because I'm telling you the house is on fire. Get out. That's how I'm screaming. It comes from a place of anxiety for your well-being because you've been lied to so much. Your head is spinning and your tail doesn't know its face. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. So thank you for understanding that in advance. I'm also just that way. That's how I've always been. I've always been the little boy who was like, the emperor has no clothes. And people don't like that. They don't like to have their paradigms messed with. It's very challenging. And I've experienced a lot of backdraft from that my entire life. So speaking out like this, as frankly as I am, as R-rated as I am, is really scary for me on a number of levels. But it's also like the people who understand, you my boy, you my girl, like you get it. You my homeboys, you my homegirls, all right? You my clan, like you get it. You get it, you get it, you get it. And you're usually the ones who are ready and poised to do well and move forward and not get stuck in that toxic information loop that does you no good. It does you no good. How you know when someone is beneficial is when they're not laying guilt, fear, and obligation all over you like a bad coat. That's how you know. It's like, I'm telling you, you have free will to do whatever you want. I don't care what you do is up to you, but just remember the consequences. There are always consequences. That's at heart one of the rules, if there are any. Not really, but in a cosmic sense, that's one of the rules of the occult, which I gotta get to Stephen Venegas. I don't even know if he's here right now, but hey, Stephen. Okay, so I'm gonna mention the question. Toxic soup, exactly. Christy Belly, exactly. Squad, yes, squad. You must squad. You is all my squad. With all my bad grammar, you are my squad. You are, in fact, my squad. Yes. Thank you. You get it. Very good. Okay, so Stephen J. Venegas at Instagram asks, hi, Anya. First of all, I would like to thank you for everything you do. You are a true blessing to this world. Oh, my Jesus, God. This kid is so cute. You have no idea. Thank you, Stephen. I believe we all have gifts and special abilities. How do we tap into them? My second question would be, how do we know we are following, and I'm kind of getting to that right now, how do we know we're following the right life path? Once again, Anya, I cannot thank you enough. You are a true blessing. You know what, Stephen? How you do this, and thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You've been around. You're OG. You've been around. There are so many people here who have been around for so long. Thank you so much. You get it. You get it. And if I could just get like 1,000 of you and like really get you informed and get you on your way, like I know that would have an impact. I just was scared of doing that. I was scared of the ownership and responsibility of that, which a lot of these people who are in psychosis and lead, quote unquote, many people, they're leading them down the wrong path. And what I'm saying is the first thing about the path that's right for you is there is no general right path. It is in the context of your experience and what you do with it that matters. So you have to do assessments. I will say that you have to do routine assessments. I've always said ideas are not bugs trapped in amber. They must be allowed to breathe and grow and change. So a sign that you're not on the path is, but you really want to, and I know I was there. I did this. I followed around a lot of different belief systems for a while and was like, oh, okay, I get that. Oh, okay, I get that. And now it's like, well, I kind of am not sure if I believe in that, or I'm kind of like, the way you know you're on the right path, for starters, one sign is that the person giving you the information that you seek does not make you feel fear, obligation, or guilt about any of it. If you decide it's not for you, the first thing you should be aware of is that person does not coerce you, bully you, tell you you're wrong. I mean, they can say, well, I would not personally do that, but you do what you want. Or they can say, I disagree. That's not the same thing as saying you're wrong. Especially in the occult, which just means hidden path. They will not try to guilt trip you. They will not try to do that. They will say, blessings to you, or some variation on a theme. I wish you wellness, but also be aware of the consequences. Why does nobody ever say this? There are consequences to everything. The consequences are what you must be willing to live with and take it on the side or not. That's how you know you're on the path. Could I live with this way of life long term? Is it sustainable? Can I look at myself in the mirror in the morning? And if you can't do that to begin with, you shouldn't be doing the occult. If you can't look at yourself in the mirror, we already have a problem that's bigger than you saying, how do I find my path? Because you ain't even on the path. You're in a ditch if you cannot look at yourself in the mirror. And that may require professional help, which is why I say I am not anti-psychology. I love psychology. Psychology is what has saved me. Psychology, not Abraham Hicks, not trance channeling. That sure as shit wasn't there for me in my darkest days. In fact, when I went to people like that, when I went to angel healers and Reiki masters and acupuncturists, there were supplementary things they did that were in that moment. They did some genius things. But one of the things that was not long-term was healing the inner stuff long-term. And unfortunately, you guys who are phobic of something called psychology, especially the alt-right conspiracy theorists, I mean, if you had a true understanding of your own personal psychology, and you didn't try to say, I can do everything by myself, and you learned how to ask for help, and you knew that you were hurting because you weren't on the path, you were stuck in a ditch, and everyone around you is giving you fear, obligation, and guilt everywhere you go, you could be a true force for real change instead of, being an armchair critic on the interwebs, smacking that keyboard back and forth. You could really be harnessing that power instead and doing something beneficial to it. So if you're stuck in a ditch, the universe is going to let you know. And one of the first things I recommend for everyone, regardless of whether or not they're stuck in a ditch, metaphorically speaking, is do a round of therapy. Psychology started as a philosophical exploration. It was a branch of philosophy. And all philosophy is asking questions about how should we live? How do we live a good life? What is good? Okay? You have to ask those questions. You have to ask those questions or you're never going to be a grown-up. You're never going to do what you like. You're never going to be happy. You're always going to be neurotically fixated on the thing that's not important, which is the spiritual practice. Am I doing it right? Am I doing the Tibetan crystal bowl right? Am I doing the yoga right? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? In the scheme of things, that shit doesn't matter, kids. It don't matter. You know what matters? Being there and ready to face things in a way that doesn't break you. Because life is hellish under the best of circumstances. Life is complicated and messy, and you need to find a path, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't know who you are, because you have to be you all the time. You have to be in your body, hopefully. You're not dissociating. And you have to address the things that held you back first before you get on that. You're getting on the path when you do that, but think of it more as taking the car out of the ditch, taking it to the mechanics, looking under the hood to see what makes it tick. You have to approach it like that, because otherwise you'll always be taken advantage of. You'll always have bullies in your life for one reason or another. You'll always feel put upon, and you'll always feel like people are after you. I don't know how else to say that. There's no spiritual practice that I know of other than the search for self, which is noble, but really searching for self. Really doing that, not doing what is called a neuroses, which is fixating on something inconsequential and making it bigger than it really is, to avoid looking at the actual stuff, because it is painful. And you do need professional assistance if it's so painful that you can't look at it. Because there's either one or two reasons why you can't look at it, and one of them is really unfortunate. One is maybe there's no way to cure that because it was already set in, it was already baked, which unfortunately is something we have to admit to each other, that some people's personalities are fixed in a very toxic, very unhelpful way to themselves and others, and that their behavior is about gaining that moment in their childhood that they never had. Yep. Inner work, spiritual house cleaning. Exactly. And this is part of it. It's terrifying, some of it. I'm not going to lie to you. Some of this is terrifying. Some of it might be, and I'm not saying in every situation, like Steele Kahn would, is everything has to do with childhood trauma. No, that is so irresponsible of her to say that. But I will say this, there's a lot of bad parenting. There's a lot of people asleep at the wheel. There's a lot of people phoning it in. And your parents really are, and this is a psychological, this comes from psychology. This does not come from the New Age spiritual movement. This is psychology here that I'm referring to right now. One of the things that you have to be aware of and you have to accept in order to move on is that your formative years do matter and they are important. Whether it was the happiest childhood on earth or not, your formative years are crucial to your personal development. And I don't know any other way to say that. You can rationalize it. You can argue with me. I get lots of people who are in ashrams and yoga retreats and all that kind of good stuff who think that just doing yoga 12 hours a day is the answer. But that's just avoiding. That's avoidance. Doing meditation 12 hours a day is the answer. That's avoidance. That's spiritual bypassing. So some of this, I'm not going to lie to you, can be terrifying. It can be awful. It can be something that leaves your head spinning for days when you find out, but it's crucial to know objective truth as much as possible about a person's behavior. And you have to define that for yourself. Like, I'm not going to sit here and define what is good for you. But in general, people who are abusive, and we have to redefine our terms of abuse here, because it's not always physical. In fact, the majority of abuse is verbal and psychological. And that they've done study after study after study. That is so much more damaging, even, they found, than physical abuse in a child. And people will rationalize, and they'll say to themselves, and I'm not saying anything new here, but people are asking me, how do I get on my path? This is the first step that you take, and it is probably the most crucial one to your wellness. It doesn't matter what spiritual practice you partake in, this has to be a part of it, or else you're never going to be a grown-up. And any of the magic that you do, and I mean, like, not magic coming out of people's, rabbits coming out of hats. I mean, there's real magic, okay? And this encompasses it. Psychology is the doorway to getting to that point of really doing meaningful, responsible, and you define what that is for you. I'm not going to sit here and define that. But responsible, life-changing magic that changes yourself first and foremost, that teaches you, I do have power over myself. I do have power over my thoughts and my mind and my spirit and my heart. I do have that. That's the most powerful thing you can do. And you can't do that if you're spiritually bypassing and saying, no, I don't need to look at my traumatic childhood. I don't need to look at what my dad did to me. No, that's not important. Yes, sweetheart. Yes, buttercup, it is. You will not move on until you deal with those crucial early childhood things, and or if something horrible, God forbid, happened to you, later in life or whatever. The basis for that is probably rooted in some form of trauma or abuse, right? And abuse, trauma, abuse, what have you, in practically interchangeable terms, okay? But again, I'm not a substitute for mental health advice. This is just what's coming out of me, what I've worked on for years. I've been trying to make a video like this. Sorry if it's rough. I didn't want it to be, love and light, and think that's just, that's spiritual. That's not spiritual nutrition. Okay, that's not nutritious. You need to eat your vitamins and your nutrients, all right? So I'm just going to tell you in the way I know how. And it makes me angry. If I sound agitated, it's because I've had 10 years of this where I was able to reach a small segment of the population, but I would watch an even larger segment walking around thinking they were doing the right thing when really they were doing the equivalent of eating a bag of Frito-Lay chips, and thinking they were virtuous and they had done their spiritual good deed for the day. And really they were just navel gazing and staring at their belly button, which is another way of saying navel gazing. I repeat myself. So it's frustrating because God is in the details and words matter. Etymology is the origin of things. I grew up in a household with someone who was very emotionally stifled, a step-parent, but he was a linguist. And he knew origins of words. Words have meaning, ladies and gentlemen. They mean things for a reason. They're not a foreign language, if it's your language that you were born with. They mean things, okay? Don't get hung up on it. But if you don't understand your origins, you might as well have no meaning. Do you understand this? The book of you is a bunch of jumbled text messages with just random letters. That's what it means. And yet there's tons of people walking around doing the surfacey thing, and they're, posting on Instagram that they're at this yoga retreat with their ass hanging out, but they're not really, they're eating Frito-Lays. Hashtag non-spawns. They're not, hey, you guys, you are awesome. Yes, etymology and symbols. Thank you. Christy Belly. Oh, I like your screen name. That's funny. Christy Belly. Yes. Favorite study, etymology and symbols. Thank you. Symbols as well. Let me get to that in a moment. But there's a reason we formed our 3D reality the way we have. And it used to be that people had control over that individually or more than they do now. We have been dumbed down, and we have been placed on purpose into a form of psychosis, mass psychosis, as well as a form, that's my guides just now, but also as a form of mass control, right? And the conspiracy, quote unquote, nuts, I love you, I'm just saying it in a funny way. Conspiracy nuts. Some of them are onto something, they really are. But some of them let the words run them and let the symbols run them. I started learning about symbols as a result of backlash I was getting by saying, well, what if these symbols mean something and they're not something that fake Christians who think that they're Christian have decided are this? Because I was seeing a lot of people, God bless him, I don't remember what his name is, the guy who wrote about, because I have experience with mind control, like my background. Those of you in the conspiracy world know all about it, but what I can gather is that there was something organized that was done to me that has since been broken, and I have 6 or 7 of the biggest, baddest, older brothers you could possibly imagine, overprotective older brothers, like watching down on me now, hoorah. That should give you a hint of who they are. And they don't mess around. But they're laughing. Okay, I got it. Hi, guys. But they aren't gonna fuck around with anyone who tries to fuck shit up with me. They are not gonna fuck around. And there's lots of evidence that people have tried to fuck with me. Okay, I'm using the vernacular. I'm sorry, I'm using for unclean carnal knowledge as a word. But I am, because I'm tired of these people who are fake Christians. And if you want to hear about fake Christianity, Mark Passio is a great person to talk to, or watch his videos about what he knows as a former Satanist and also as an occultist, who he's still an occultist. He knows how this works. Okay, he's got an idea. I think he's a little tiny wound a little bit too tight. Like, he might be a little too paranoid. But if I were saying and doing what he's saying and doing, I might be a little paranoid too, because I understand what's at stake and I understand what he's up against. But I just want to say, Mark, if somebody's a fan and wants to pass it on, there's been some danger, but you are protected. Your words have meaning and value, and we respect them. And thank you. But moving forward, I don't agree with everything you say, but I do agree on the majority of things that you're saying, and I really respect you a lot, and God bless you. But anyway, yeah, so that's what's going on. It's about symbols and language, and making sure that people don't know what the occult really is. And unfortunately, people who want to do the right thing, who call themselves Christians but have no understanding of theology or the history of Christianity, and seemingly don't understand what the Council of Nicaea was, which is really interesting. They are well-meaning, and it's nothing against them. I have nothing personally against people who call themselves Christians, but they don't know what they're talking about the vast majority of time. And Mark Passio did a breathtaking video about that. Fake-ass Christians. I can't remember what the name of the video was, but look it up. If anybody has a link, Gabe, you're probably hooked into that. You would probably know. He did a brilliant video, if it hasn't been taken down, about fake Christianity versus real symbolism, real Gnostic Christians. Earth-shaking, brilliant videos. So yeah, Mark Passio, Passio. Okay. So fake-ass Christians trying to tell occultists what the occult is kind of like people who've never baked a pie telling people how to bake a pie. It's just in one ear, right out the other, because they are not initiated. They do not know what that means. They do not know what it means to be occulted. They don't understand it. What they understand are disordered personalities who are probably psychopaths, who are extremely codependent, believe it or not, and who are disordered. They might even be psychotic, performing inversions of rituals that have nothing to do with what real occultism actually is. It's a dark form of it. It is not the end summation of what occultism is. I think occultism's great. I have found value in certain satanic tracts. you don't like that, you can unsubscribe. I've found value in other philosophical precepts, okay? There's value in everything. It's what you do with it that matters. Intent is what matters. And the context matters, okay? It doesn't work for every single situation, but in certain situations, it's like when you're running philosophical what if questions, like where they do, what's the question that people ask about, what is this, Gabe? Christians don't like to hear that their temples are on grid energy ley lines. Well, that might be part of it, but that's like prosperity gospel ley lines we're talking about. That's like delusional ley lines. Yeah, it has nothing to do with actually learning about the history of Christianity ever. Like that gets thrown out the window. But yeah, oh yeah, philology. Yeah, Brandon, that's what we're at. Yeah. So yeah, so it doesn't take into account context for anything. It's just everything is thrown in the bucket and it's all bad regardless. And I want to make some videos. I found a woman who claims that she was doing tarot card. It was like what happened with Doreen Virtue. I don't know if you've heard of Doreen Virtue, which she did, but what they never say is that she's also, she was a famous New Ager. She's very wealthy, like obscenely wealthy. She has like a compound in Hawaii and like a whole farm full of animals, and she's a very compulsive personality and she's a very addictive personality. She claims that she was an alcoholic. She also she's a psychologist. She is a therapist. I think because she started doing angel readings, she got like asked to not be a psychologist anymore, but she was a therapist. And then she got into all the psychic stuff, and she was right about some things, but I think just her own background made her experience of the occult a little shaky because she herself was not completely there yet. The cake was not completely baked. And so she's been married 5 times, as an example. It's not to vilify her. I'm sure she's a very nice person at heart. She doesn't mean ill will, but she is a very compulsive personality, a very addictive personality. And it makes you wonder, like, is it really? So she did tarot cards for a while. She was very successful, for those of you who don't know. And then she just dropped it all like overnight, like 2 years ago, and said she'd become a Christian, which was shocking to me because she's a very educated woman who the words coming out of her mouth just sounded like gibberish because, and theorists, conspiracy theorists, I wouldn't go into too far into that. I don't think she met up with a CIA person who was using NLP on her or something. I think she's just that way. She's been married 5 times. She's got too many animals, in my opinion. Like, if she were a regular incomed person, people would think she was a crazy cat lady who had like too many cats, you know. It's a little compulsive. It's just really weird. And she just happens to have the money to care for all these creatures, and that's great. But really, like 100 pets, really? Like, it's just like kind of weird. So she does these like angel, she was wildly successful, and then she renounced all of it and claimed she'd become a Christian, which was really like, unless somebody like came in and like gave her like a brain damage, like they whacked her in the head with something, I don't know. But someone that intelligent and that successful and that aware of things, even them can still like not be aware of what the true occult really means. Just means hidden. Just means hidden. It's not a value judgment on anything. And it's up to the individual. It's how the individual handles it. I personally think she had a freak out. I think she couldn't handle the attention anymore. I think she was too in her own addictions and compulsivity. I think maybe she was spending a lot of money, or she was just like going through things too fast. It might be like a hypermania of some kind even, but I'm not here to diagnose. I'm just getting this intuitively. There might be like a manic disposition about her, or on the spectrum that might require even medication. I don't know, but I'm not a substitute for mental health. This is just what I'm getting psychically. I have been able, I'm not like Edgar Casey. I'm not like the medical psychic or anything, but I have correctly diagnosed many, many things that later were officially diagnosed by professionals, medical and scientific professionals. Again, Don't take my word for it, but many times that stuff has turned out to be true. And I don't know why that is. That's spirit. That's energy that is moving through me that I have allowed temporarily to be a co-partnership with, rather than taking me over, as in trance channeling, which I do not recommend at all. If you want to be on the path, do not trance channel. Channel your higher self, which is what I'm doing now. Channel your spirit guides, which is what I'm not channeling them. We're having a conversation. But things like that. Anything that takes away your autonomy is generally bad. Okay? You want to give yourself over to a spirit, that's basically possession. That's what that is. So I think what was happening with Doreen, and I don't want to belabor that point too much because God bless her, she's on the path. She's just kind of screwy with her decision making because I think the spotlight was too much on her. And maybe there's a spiritual reason for that as well, to get more frank, as I am doing, to get more real, to get more DIY about it. I was a riot girl. I was like a dyed in the wool. Like, I went to the meetings with the women making the zines. Like, I'm a relic. I'm like a relic. I lived in Seattle, Washington in 1992. I'm literally a relic, okay? And I loved every minute of it. I fucking loved it. I loved the exuberance and the joy and the companionship, comradeship, whatever you want to call it. It was electrifying. Don't let anyone fool you. Second wave feminism is amazing. Third wave feminism, I don't know too much, but I had a lot of fun. That was great. That was one of the best times of my life. It was completely liberating in the best sense of the word. So, yay, Riot Girls. Not a fan so much of the music groups that came out of that, but Sleater-Kinney is amazing. Sleater-Kinney, if all the other bands were shit, Sleater-Kinney is worth it, you guys. Check out Sleater-Kinney. They're an amazing band. Okay. So anyway, and Bikini Kill and Kathleen Hanna's amazing. I love her and her projects. So yeah, those guys were very talented. But so what if the band sucked for the most part? What I'm trying to get at is the DIY spirit was irrepressible. And I see some of that coming back now. It's like the 90s are really hot again. It seems to go in 20-year cycles. And one thing that was really great about the 90s was that grunge inspired a lot of people in the way that the punk rock movement did in the 70s. See that 20-year cycle thing again. To do it themselves. And so now we even have more tools now to do it yourself. We have more access than ever before. I remember in Seattle, I was going to these funky old bookstores that probably are long gone with really esoteric, obscure material that I was looking for. Because I knew Seattle was like Freak Flag Central. It's great. There were like tons of like witchy bookstores and things like that. I was in heaven. I didn't have any money. I was working at the aquarium. Oh, it was so funny. The costume, not the costume, the outfit I had to wear was so funny. It was so like 90s, retro 90s. Let's just say teal. I don't mean teal swan. I mean teal, the color, was very popular. Teal, teal, teal everywhere. And pink, hot pink, seemed to be a predominant color scheme. But anyway, but I look good in teal, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, the DIY thing was so life-affirming. It was so wonderful. It was like, yeah, I don't need this shit. I don't need this story that my family tells me I have to do. I have to get this kind of job and marry this kind of person and talk about this. And one of the things I was going to talk about today was about love. And my guides were like very insistent a couple days ago. It may not be so much now, but there's like, this is weird. There's a lot of guys in the chat, and I get like 70% women watching my videos. So I don't know what that is, but one of the things that is really important about, oh, all right, somebody said they went to that Many Days in that aquarium. It's a really cool aquarium, isn't it? It's a really cool aquarium. Yeah, Seattle lost its soul. Seattle in 1992 was magical. I know it's a cliche, but it was absolutely magical. But one of the things I was going to talk about, and this isn't just exclusive to women, but my guides were like, we're really concerned about young women. We are really concerned about young women. We want to talk about love as pertains to young women and how they are receiving the term love as it pertains to them in 2019. And I'm talking like young women still kind of forming their ideas about themselves. And one of the great things about witchcraft is it teaches you that you are a power and a force unto yourself, and you control you. One of the few things you can do that is truly powerful is you control you. You control your emotions. You control your expression of yourself, what you wear, how you wear your hair, how you do things. And there is a creative power in that. I know people like diss it and say, oh no, how you comport yourself is powerful. How you carry yourself across is powerful. And the establishment hates that. And it was almost like that witchy kind of vibe back then in the 90s and in the 70s as well, with like, oh my God, we suddenly remembered this like subset of the culture suddenly remembered as youth. It was like an instant, like, I get it, because they were checking into ancient pagan stuff and ancient individual stuff that's in our DNA that is like, it's powerful to be a human. And I have this, and I can cut this tree down and make a house, and I can kill this animal and eat it for food, and I can grow this vegetable and make a farm. That is fucking magical. And it does you good, and it does a body good, and it does a mind good. To be able to have control over something that isn't malignant is the most powerful energy in the universe. And one of the things that I liked, and don't at me, bros, one of the things I did like initially about the alt-right movement was it was going back to that powerful essence of DIY. I can do this myself. I can learn how to shoot a gun. I can learn how to grow my own food. I can, right? Instead of yes, I can, which is bow down to the state. I'm sorry, you guys, I voted for Obama the first time because I was misguided. But I certainly didn't vote for Trump, so please don't at me. I'm not trying to make this about politics, but yes, I can rely on the state is exclusively and entirely for literally everything is not the way to empowerment. And witchcraft is kind of funky in that regard because it's like, I'm the most powerful thing I am. I'm powerful. I have cousins and sisters and brainiacs and brain trusts all around me who are the most powerful person they are. And there's power in that. And you can develop that intelligently, or you can be a doofus about it and develop it and go to the dark side and do all kinds of shit. But it's just going to come back to you. Like I've seen it with every single person who's done harm to me or others. It's just going to come back to you in waves, usually 3 times as bad as the story goes, but not necessarily. Sometimes even worse. Sometimes it leads to death, as in finality. I don't mean metaphorically. I mean literal death. So anyway, I have gone on, but I want young women, if you're watching this, hopefully you're not turned off by my swear fest at the beginning, because, again, human shit show, Mercury retrograde, feel like I'm going backwards, solar plexus all activated. Forgive me. It's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission, right? So I'm asking for forgiveness rather than your permission. If you don't like it, you can go, but it's okay. But it's really important, ladies, to understand, because boys are taught this as well, that you have power in your physical being. You have power in what you can do. You can be powerful and forceful. Women have that too. And the expression and development of that is crucial. And you have to relook at love as not one of codependence that the Disney fantasy is pushing you and saying, oh, if I just want, someday my prince will come. That's very nice, but it's also really toxic. It's really toxic. And the way you find your prince is through you. It's not through some external circumstances like a wicked witch giving you a poison apple, ladies. Okay? But that is how you get thwarted energetically as a metaphor. The apple, believe it or not, is a symbol of magic. Because if you cut it crosswise, rather than one certain way, you cut it open. If you've ever opened up an apple a certain way, it's a 5-pointed star, mofos. It's a 5-pointed star. I don't have an apple right now to show, but it's true. If you go to my Instagram, I have a photo of one where I bit it down to a star. And it's a freaking pentagram, ladies and germs. Ladies and gents, you're not germs. You're positive. So, yeah, you're a positive force for change. There's no one who's more positive a force for change than you are. Just harness that power. So the first thing you got to do is get your personal psychology straight, and you got to get your emotions straight. The occult is all about the power and control of your emotions along with your intent. If you don't have your emotional life in check, you ain't got nothing, baby. And your path is varied and grows and changes. It's a winding road, okay? Like the okay, I'm gonna get corny for a second, but it is like every day is like a winding road. Like the who's that singer? I like her. She's total AM drive music. What's her name? Cheryl something. I'm not gonna Cheryl. What is her name? I can't remember. Sheryl Crow. Thank you, Brandon. Sheryl Crow. Every day is like a winding road. Was that her? Was that her song? I don't remember. I think she did a song like that. But every day is like a winding road. So you get to design. I know that gets overused. You can be a Imaginarium owner of your reality. Like, I don't mean to make it sound like it's that kind of level of stupidity. My guides are saying stupidity. It's not that vacuous. It does require work. It's really hard work, but it's the best work you'll ever do, so it's worth it, okay? It's not easy. But the year of silence that I had, it wasn't silent, okay? Don't at me. I'm clearly not silent. Clearly. Obviously. But I'm rather loquacious. But the year of silence, as I call it, the year of going within, really shut that shit down like a motherfucker. Like, it really shut down the critics and the people using fear, obligation, and guilt, because I really spent the time working on the final loose ends with my family and issues with that, and reconciling that, and the needs that I had, admitting that I had needs. Ladies, you have needs, you count. You're not just there for the benefit of the man, which unfortunately, apparently this still goes on, that girls are still raised, I guess, in pockets. I don't know. I'm 108,000 years old, so I don't know. I literally have no clue what it is to be a parent in that sense. But in the sense of like, girls, the implication up until literally just maybe yesterday in terms of a timeline, like a blip on the radar, a lot of women and girls are raised to be there for the pleasure of the man, to be there for his happiness, and to be the caretaker of his emotional life. And that is not good. That is not good. Everybody is responsible for themselves. The brilliant, breathtaking, liberating thing about witchcraft and the occult is that you are the owner of you, and nobody messes with that. Nobody messes with that. You learn how to control you. And that's scary to certain people. So of course they're going to vilify it. Of course they're going to marginalize it. That's too damn scary for so many people. And it's one of the healthiest things I've ever done. It feels healthy to do it the right way. Obviously, I'm not talking about black magic. I'm talking about, it's not white. It's contextually in the regard of what is in the best, highest interest for everyone. If you're really doing it right, you want it in the best, highest outcome for everyone. That's really what it should be. When you are ordered in your mind, you will be ordered in your craft, okay, and in your spiritual development. And this applies to men as well. It has, it's not gender specific. But women, so many women are just like allowing these symbols, i.e. Instagram models or whatever, to define their story. And in this case, it could be seen as a very liberating experience to understand that you alone hold this very special power, and you alone have control over that. And nobody can fuck with it if you know what you're doing. Nobody. So also going on the path, and also for young men, this applies, of course. But for some reason, 2 days ago, my guides were like, young women, young women, young women. And so my demographic lately has been more like 70% women. So I don't know why that is. It's usually like sort of right down the middle. But they wanted that message to go out to young women, especially young adults, teenagers if you're watching this, and young women in their 20s and 30s, because it's hard. It's hard enough being in an image symbol obsessed society to understand these impossible beauty ideals, and really just, it's kind of distracting you from this kind of development, and that could objectively be seen as evil. That really could be. But, and they do the same thing with men in different ways, but essentially going into the same stew pot. You know, it's just not helpful. So I'm just trying to, you know, whip some people, metaphorically speaking, into shape, and to just not believe everything they hear, to check their sources, to do background. That will also help you get out of the ditch and get on the path. And then what was the second part of the question? Maybe I answered the question already. Did somebody else leave a? Okay. So yeah, it just says, how do we know we're on the right path? When you know that people trying to psych you out, it doesn't work anymore. The old tricks that people use on you no longer works. And so that's another reason why psychology is your friend and you shouldn't vilify it. And just try to get to know yourself better. That's the credo. I'll try and say this in every video until it sinks in with people. I follow the path of the Temple of Apollo in Delphi, Greece, with the inscription that states, first and foremost, the temple where psychics were, where oracles were, says first and foremost, above everyone's head, know thyself. That is what I follow. I follow my sisters at Delphi. Know thyself. That's the path to the occult, the true occult, not disordered mental illness, but the true occult path. Know thyself. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses, know your neuroses, know and learn to recognize when you're doing something. And we can get into it further. That's what I want to develop a psychic development course. I hate that word because it's like you're not developing anything. You're really more like uncovering it like an archaeologist. It's really just remembering stuff that's probably embedded deeply in your DNA and you just don't know it. It's like it's information you know, you just don't remember it right now. That's all. So you're not really developing, you're more like uncovering things. Maybe I should call it a psychic uncovering course. I don't know, but that stuff takes time. But if you guys want to do that, oh, I'm being premature. I don't want to do that because I'm like such a perfectionist about stuff sometimes. Trying to smash that habit too, because that doesn't do any good to overthink things. Okay, what am I missing here? Know thyself, and you shall know the secrets of the universe. Yes, yes. Well, there's a lot of people who are aligned with what I'm saying. Thank you so much. I thought there'd be at least one person who's like, you're a dominatrix for the Illuminati, you know, because they want you to be stuck in that because they get off on it, you know. It's their stupid little cheap thing. I mean, really, guys, have you never heard of Pornhub? Like, can't you just go there and deal with that or hire a cam girl? Like, why do you have to do that to women who really don't want to do that? Like, now maybe privately is another thing, but I'm laughing because people don't realize they give themselves away with their language. Once you start understanding etymology, which is the origin of words, once you start understanding symbols, which are deeply ancient, embedded in things, I highly recommend. It might be a little wordy, it might be a little dry, but Man and His Symbols is a great book. It's one of the greatest books I've ever read, and I'm drawing a blank as to who wrote it. I know it's a Is it Carl Jung? I don't know. I've been referencing him a lot lately. I read it in college. It explained so much for me. It was like a cornerstone for a lot of things for me. But Man and His Symbols. Carl Jung. Okay. Thank you. Man and His Symbols. Really important book for me. It's another book. Just here's the thing. How to get on the path for intuition. Go to a Barnes & Noble or a bookstore or whatever, and just go to the section that you want to go to and reach for the book that you want to reach. There you go. You're an intuition master. You know, go towards the things that you are interested in. There's a Rumi quote that did I save it on my photos? I love this quote so much. And this is also, I love Rumi, the Persian poet and philosopher, just amazing. Okay, so the Rumi quote, if I am not boring you too much with this. Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. The end. Close the book. We're done. Like that's part of it, is listening to yourself. You have to listen to yourself. So you can't really listen to yourself if you have fear, obligation, and guilt, injunctions and orders, and just stupid guilt trips in your brain that are programmed, that were there probably when you were an infant, because you were basically held hostage to a lot of these things, even though they were well-intentioned maybe sometimes and well-meaning. They were bad. They were bad parenting, bad lessons that you were taught, or they might have worked at one time when you were in it, crawling around, don't touch that live wire, whatever. That might have worked when you were 2 or 4, but it probably doesn't work anymore. So the occult teaches you that you have to reparent yourself as part of your approval and mastery of your own work. You are the technician, you are the mechanic. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance might be a book that you like. That was another early work that I read that was really talking about, don't hate things, try to understand why they work. Like in his case, they're talking about what it takes to be a motorcycle mechanic, and going into the Zen understanding, this is connected to this. And men kind of may have an innate understanding, sort of, because that's the way they're kind of taught to socialize, is just trying to fix things through understanding how things work. So that might be easier for men, but mechanical thinking for a lot of women is not as encouraged, unfortunately. But it's not really about the mechanics. It's about understanding how things come to pass. And it's almost like a form of, what do you call it? CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy kind of teaches you that. Where you sort of, it's not really that the person did a bad thing to you, it's just that they're disordered, or they a lot of times people think they're doing you a favor by telling you something, and that if it's really damaging to you, it means that their construct of the world is different than yours. And CBT, I don't think, goes far enough in helping highly sensitive people or traumatized people, but it does teach you how to think about things in a way so that you understand that not everything is about you, and not everything is out to get you. That just the world is imperfect, and that you can't really personalize too much of the stuff that happens to you, because a lot of it is the stuff that they're doing that they're unconscious about. And so we have to get woke, in that regard. We have to take ownership and responsibility of our own personal power. So that's one of the it's not fast, but if you really devote yourself to it, in a year or less, I guarantee you that you could be on the path to that kind of expression. But it requires self-assessment. It requires serious removal from the environment that is telling you one thing about yourself that may not be the reality, and reflection upon that, and then trying to unravel that yarn and see where that came from, and then deprogramming the very important cues that you were given and the things that were said to you and were done that are not happening to you now. So you can't personalize it and imprint that experience from years ago onto every individual experience you have, because that's mental illness. That's non-growth. That's the opposite of a path. That's digging yourself deeper into the ditch. Okay? So let's see. Oh, good, Brandon. My mother gave me Zen and the Art of Motorcycle when I was 7. Maybe that's a little too young, but I think her intention was good. That's good, to help see the parts of things in order to understand the whole. So good. I mean, 7 seems a bit young, but okay, to each their own. Good for her for introducing that idea to you, though. It's a very important part of life. It's really important. Yep. CBT is part of the puzzle for sure. Yeah, that's one of the answers. You got to figure it out for yourself. I know that nobody wants to hear that. It's like, well, you do my work for me. I'm not going to do your work for you. You have to do your homework, or else you can't graduate. Get it? So I'm here as a tutor, though, of a sort, if you like. I can assist, but I can't do your work for you. So that's one of the things, is Also, making it okay for boys to have emotional lives is really, really important. And a feminist principle that a lot of people get wrong. A lot of these like men's rights guys or red pillars, whatever, they think feminism is a bad thing. No, please try to not paint with such a big brush, especially if you don't know what feminism is. Feminism, one of the initial precepts of feminism was equal pay for equal rights, because there were devastatingly wide margins between what men and women were earning for the same job. That was really bad. That was one of the first reasons why feminism gained traction as an idea, but it's not new. It's not a 20th century invention. Mary Bysshe Shelley wrote a great essay on feminism in the 1800s, 1700s, so it's nothing new. Feminism is not new, so get that out of your head. That's false. And also, it wants men to be healthy and happy and emotionally attuned as well. It doesn't mean turn men into women. It means that identities should be the thing that a person is allowed to cultivate, and it should not be impressed upon them brutally or oppressively. Children should be allowed to explore their identities sanely and safely. And if a boy wants to cry and feel sad, that's okay. Conversely, if a girl wants to go into a STEM field, that's okay. We should allow that, but it's not, obviously I'm reducing it to simplistic terminology, but at heart, that's what that's about. And the occult doesn't judge in that regard as well. It is very feminist in that regard, in that it encourages men to develop the yin part of their personality that the, shall we say, mainstream culture does not actively promote, okay? So the occult is not for babies. It's not for emotional whiners. It's not for people who see things in black and white. That is a misnomer, and you got to get that out of your head. It's not a bad thing. It teaches you personal power if you know what you're doing. But the first thing you got to do, the baseline thing you have to do, is identify your emotions and where they're coming from. And that's one of the biggest ways to heal yourself. Okay, hi, Stephen. Thank you for joining us. I am a very emotional person. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's what you do with it that counts. You have to admit that you're feeling the thing, and then you have to describe it, like write it down or something. It's really important to know where these emotions come from and to process them. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to get mad at people. That's also this misnomer about spirituality, that you can never get mad and you can never get angry. You can be a sexual human being. You can have a full expression of the range of emotions. You don't have to be some Vestal virgin sitting on a mountaintop in white robes. Okay? That's not spiritual. That's spiritually bypassing. That's the definition of spiritual bypassing. To not be allowed to have a full spectrum of emotions is wrong. To not be allowed to express a full spectrum of emotions in a healthy, responsible way is wrong. That's sick. And it creates a sick culture to send that message that you must be this way, you must be that way. You have to find it out for yourself, and you have to cultivate that. And it's, rather than being a burden, when you are in the right place at the right time, in alignment with your soul and listening to what your body, mind, spirit wants, it's a miracle. It's the best thing ever. It's freedom. It's liberation. But more on that later. I'm going to have to, but emotions can't rule the ship. Yeah, exactly, Brandon. But you can't be just a logic machine. You can't turn into Data, the robot, either. You have to have accountability for your emotions as well, and where to put them. You have to know where to put them and what it's doing. And is it fueling the trip? Is it fueling the machine, or is it throwing you into a ditch again? Because sometimes if you ignore your emotions, it's really self-sabotage, and it's not dealing with anything. And you can't be a logic machine 100,000% of the time either, because 100,000% of the time is what counts. Because I'm extra like that. It's not 100%, it's 100,000%. And I have to tell you, thank you so much for this. I don't know if there's going to be a recording of this. It should record. It should be there. But that's why I did that test the other day, just to make sure. And That's basically it. I hope I have satisfied the criteria for this live stream, and I hope I don't get struck down by the angry gods of internet abuse or trolls, whatever. The end. Okay, thank you so much. Happy Bastille Day. 100,000%, exactly. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for this experiment. I think it might have been successful, if you'll excuse the swear words at the beginning. Excessive. All right, take care, guys. Until we next meet. Oh, and just keep in mind, still 20% off for the entire month of July for all offerings on my website, anyabriggs.com. Please contact me if you want to do this. If you've seen me before and you just want to tune up, now is a great time, because I promise you I'm not going to be doing one-on-ones forever. It's really not something that is sustainable long-term. I'm going to be changing my platform shortly over time, and one-on-ones are going to become increasingly rare. So try to take advantage of that right now while there's still time, and I'm happy to help you out. I'm getting a lot of people are searching right now, and they want answers. And it does require an investment of time and energy that I can plunk down with you, and we can look at together and solve problems with. It's solutions-oriented that I'm only interested in, nothing else. Cut the dross, cut the fat. Let's just move forward together, okay? Thank you so much again, guys, and happy, happy, happy Sunday, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care. Ooh, end.